This is going to be long. This is, I think, the longest video we've ever watched on stream or if on the second channel. It's 59 minutes and 30 seconds. It's a video by Mr. Raffle Waffles called Liberty Balls. I think it almost has 1 million views already. I think there was a bit of a misstep. Liberty Balls is a great name. You could also call it Liberty Fails and spell it F-A capital I lowercase L-S. So it still shows Liberty Falls, but anyway, I digress. This is Milo. He slightly looks like he's been electrocuted, slightly looks but like he's been working in a lab, slightly looks like he's about to drop a wicked EDM tape. And we're going to be listening to him for an hour, so let's tune in.
Inside the Black Ops 6 Zombies community. And so today I'm going to use this whiteboard pen and this whiteboard to explain both sides of the argument so you can decide who you agree with, and together we'll try to understand how we went from Liberty Falls to Liberty Balls. To start with, a little context. There have been a lot of accusations leveled at Treyarch that their marketing has been deceptive in the build-up to Black Ops 6. Specifically, we're going to run through several quotes now from Treyarch themselves to see how they've talked about Liberty Falls so far, and then that's going to help inform some of the stuff down here about where Treyarch has gone wrong and the mistakes that they have made, and potentially some stuff the Zombies community has also messed up as well.
The deceptive marketing thing I'm very interested in for one main reason, and we'll get to that. So let's
just rattle through some statements from Treyarch. First of all, they told us that Liberty Falls is smaller.
Wait, YouTube commented on his video? YouTube. Just a man and his whiteboard pen.
Other conversations that I've had with the team, they've said that it's more compact than Terminus. And in other promotional sort of paragraphs in the blog, stuff like that, they often refer to it as a small town, maybe a small town with a big problem, those sorts of words. However, they've been clear that despite it being smaller, more compact, etc., that doesn't make it any less of a full map. For example, they've referred to it just as the second launch map. They've similarly said that there are 2 brand new round-based zombies maps in the game, one obviously being Terminus, the other being Liberty Falls. So it's a fully fledged, brand new round-based zombies map as far as Treyarch is concerned. And because they're treating
Okay, I'll wait to see what he says about it.
That means that its main quest will be more challenging than Cold War. That's also something they've said about Liberty Falls. We've got a double whammy here. They've said that it's fundamentally going to be harder than Cold War. That's just the overall ethos for Black Ops 6 Zombies. It's not specific to Liberty Falls, but in general, all of their maps will be fundamentally harder than Cold War, and, I quote, more difficult to hit round 100 on as well. Now, a weird kind of quirk to this is that when I was at Treyarch a month ago, and we'll talk about that a little later, they said that they weren't quite sure yet how they were going to make it harder. Like, they were still in the process of figuring that out, but that was their intention. They just didn't have a...
Okay, so, from what I'm understanding with this, if he goes with deceptive marketing on this is mainly, I think, all from closed-door conversations that he had at Treyarch. And I don't know if you can call that marketing.
Kind of mechanism in mind yet. And finally, another quirk is that in one of the blog posts, they were talking about Terminus, and they said, and I quote here, "Get ready to play this round-based zombies map," that's Terminus, "at the launch of Black Ops 6 on October 25th, along with the Liberty Falls map." And this is a real semantics thing that I'm picking into here, but they were really aggressively calling Terminus a round-based zombies map in that blog post. But in that post, they didn't call Liberty Falls a round-based zombies map. They just said alongside the Liberty Falls map. And whenever I see unusual language differences like that in blog posts, the first thing my brain goes to is legal, specified, they had to word it that way. Like, this isn't the way that you would write this unless legal.
No, I disagree with that. It's still a round-based zombies map, whether you like it or not.
I told you to do it. So I feel like there's something to be figured out with the way that they worded that blog post, the way that they phrased that could help us kind of understand some shadowy behind-the-scenes conversation that's informing the decision-making behind what's going on here. So this is just a handful of quotes, okay? We are going to refer back to these as we go through the rest of the video here, but I needed to get this installed in your brain as first point of order because certain things are immediately obviously true. For example, they've told us that it's going to be smaller than Terminus, and so we obviously haven't been deceived now that we know that it is indeed smaller than Terminus.
Much
that
smaller.
was sort of forewarned. However, there are certain other things, like it being more difficult to hit round 100 and just fundamentally harder, that do seem at complete odds with the gameplay that we've seen of Liberty Falls. And similarly...
So I have played Liberty Falls. I made it to round 20. I went to go exfil and I got lost. Now, I felt like I could probably survive another 30 rounds pretty easily with one pack of triple packed weapon. And then it might start getting a little difficult. And I could see how they were saying that Liberty Falls would be more difficult because it's smaller, less room to move. I could see that because I got stuck in a bank vault is what ended up happening.
With the gameplay that we've seen so far, there's a lot of people in the community that feel like it looks more like a bonus map than a fully fledged map, but Treyarch have been very clear to insist on it being referred to as a second launch map. It's a brand new round-based zombies map, and it's being treated on equivalent terms to Terminus. It's just that Terminus is a larger play space. Like, they don't want us to think that Liberty Falls is any less of a full zombie.
By the way, before we go any further, my opinion on this has changed since I talked about it last. You'll see how as we go through. But I don't think, number one, I think the term bonus map is dumb. Especially when they are having an Easter egg, they just didn't show it. I don't like the use of that. If you don't like the map, you don't like the map, and I'm undecided about that. But the use of bonus map in my mind is dumb. And number two, I think there is a very specific reason why people didn't like Liberty Falls, and I'm sure he will get to that.
From Treyarch's perspective, that is. So let's assess whether or not that's accurate, whether or not it's deceptive, etc., as we progress through the video here. Something I nearly forgot to mention is I actually have a video breaking down all the zombies bonus maps that we've ever had before now and comparing them to Liberty Falls to see where Liberty Falls kind of sits amongst all that stuff. It's a really good video. I'm really proud of it. It's linked in the description down below and in the corner of the screen right now as well. Now, our next topic that I need to sort of install in your brain before we can get into the meat here is this question that I've seen people asking of like why I hid my Black Ops 6 Zombies review. The context is that basically about a month ago, I went to Treyarch and I played Black Ops 6 Zombies early, and I was only allowed to play Terminus, and I was only allowed to play it for about 40 minutes. But then I got back from Treyarch and I didn't post a whiteboard video like this being like, here's exactly what I thought of Black Ops 6 Zombies. And a lot of people have asked me why. And part of the reason is that I've been really grinding so much other content. I've been so busy.
The real reason, and I really hope he says this, is because he was on his whole side quest thing. Like his whole, like, I'm going to Liberty Falls myself thing. If he doesn't acknowledge that, and it should be acknowledged at some point in this, there's an issue there.
With so many things and hitting 2 million subscribers that we did yesterday, that I just haven't been able to find the time to do a really comprehensive video on that particular topic. That's part of the reason. I brought back this, but as a celebration of hitting 2 million subs, I brought back my massive Mega Abomination poster. This thing's only available for another week. It's on milomerch.com if any of you guys are interested. Highly recommend. This thing is gorgeous. So there are those sorts of reasons, but also I ran into a sort of unusual situation when I played Black Ops 6, which is that from what I played, the little I played, I felt like I wasn't really able to truly evaluate what I was seeing because I got such a small slice of it. Like the little that I saw would be able to be summarized more or less as it felt like Cold War to begin with. Like that was just definitely the vibe that I got. But there were changes to systems that meant that it might feel quite different to Cold War once you got used to them. Like the new armor system, the way that salvage works now, those sorts of things might actually mean that it has a very different flow. But because I was only able to play so little of the game, I just wasn't really sure what I actually thought of those things. And so I was like, okay, I'll focus on the stuff that I'm a little bit more.
Okay. I'm just going to point out something that is, he's being very disingenuous about this. He's saying why he didn't make a zombies review video on that is because he didn't get a good enough opinion of the map, but he played it for 40 minutes. And now he is writing a review on Liberty Falls when he hasn't played it, and the amount of playtime was about 40 minutes. So I don't understand how you can say that that's why you did that when that's exactly what you're doing now, but you haven't played it. And I'm not saying that anything that he is saying is wrong, but I think that's a disingenuous statement.
More equipped to actually make like today, such as my breakdowns of the Liberty Falls intro cutscene, for instance, that came out about a week ago, or to break down some of the other Zombies trailers that we had earlier in the month, or the blog posts, or like all sorts of stuff. There's been so much Zombies news this month. It's been crazy difficult to keep up. But what that's all meant is that, sort of in summary, expectations have been really damn high for Black Ops 6 Zombies. Like, it's felt this past month like Black Ops 3. It's really given me that kind of energy, that positive vibe in the community, that really excited.
And I will say the community that is booming right now within Black Ops 6 is 100% zombies.
The current pulling us towards the launch of the game, it's felt amazing. And so I've been swept up in that. And yet we now find ourselves at this little crossroads where suddenly the Zombies community is in flames, right? Suddenly people are canceling pre-orders. Suddenly people are saying in comment section that their hype has gone from 100 to 0. And an argument that I've actually seen people bringing up on Reddit, on Twitter, etc., is that, hold on, can we just sort of check for a second whether we are causing this problem? Because if you look back at previous Call of Duty titles, let's say Black Ops 3, for instance, you look at the launch map on Black Ops 3, Shadows of Evil, and when
we don't question the great Milo about his views. The waffle knows best. Fair enough.
that map came out, people were like, whoa. This is like aliens now.
This
and like,
is
that's
true.
not zombies. Like, I prefer the old zombies. Why are you making it this alien fantasy story? And then Shadows was also really complex. And so people were like, whoa. This isn't zombies. Like, I shouldn't have to turn into a squid monster just to get out of the spawn room. Like, nah, that's not zombies. So there was some negativity that was attached to Shadows initially based on that. But then in hindsight, we look back on Shadows now and we're like, damn, they cooked. Like, that was a really solid map. Similarly, Black Ops 2, Transit. Remember when that came out? And everyone was like, oh, well, the normies are enjoying it, but the hardcore people don't like it nearly as much because the fog's really annoying and the denizens are annoying and it's so brown and all that sort of stuff. And now, in hindsight, we look back at Transit and we're like, yeah, it's got its flaws, but also it has its...
Chat, do you guys like Transit? Just side note, do you guys like Transit?
really strong points. Another example, Black Ops 4. Obviously, before launch, crazy hype, crazy build-up. And then we got the launch of the game, and there was a lot of debate in the community about whether it was good or bad. And now, in hindsight, we look back at maps like Ancient Evil, and we're like, hold on, that map was fire. Like, they actually did a really good job there, despite the fact that at the time, we gave it a lot less of a chance. And so the question that people really are posing right now is the Zombies community falling into the trap it always falls into of...
The answer is yes. The answer to this question is yes, but it still might suck.
liking the stuff that already exists, being resistant to change that might be presented to it, and then once that changes...
Wait, where's... Someone just said it. I think it was Killer Shark that said it. Taking loadouts out will help zombies a lot. There's another video that we might watch later that's about that. I think it was Killer Shark that said... everyone hates on Cold War zombies, but at the same time, they loved it when it first came out. It's the same kind of thing he's talking about.
By launching the game, only then, in hindsight, can we say, you know what? Maybe that was good after all. Maybe I should have given it more of a chance. So on one hand, yeah, this can happen, okay? I agree that this is something that the zombies community can experience, can fall victim to. But at the same time, it doesn't hurt to critique the art that you're being presented with through the lens of your current reality, like the present day, and be like, okay, this part of the art that I'm being presented with is working for me, and this other part is not. Like, even if in 6 months' time you change your mind, that doesn't mean your original opinion was any less valid. And I think that it would be overstepping to say, oh, just because somebody...
Okay, so where this bothers me is when you jump to opinions too quickly, it can be a bad thing, right? Like, it's the whole don't judge a book by its cover thing. And he's contradicting what he just said so much. He just said that he didn't want to make a review because he didn't get enough playtime to enjoy it. And now he's making a review without any playtime and saying that your opinions matter even if they're wrong in the first place, that your first reaction matters. So he's completely contradicting his original statement on why he didn't make a review. But I don't necessarily disagree with what he's saying. You can have criticism quickly, but that doesn't mean it's always good criticism.
Somebody didn't like Shadows at first, and then in hindsight they do like it, means that they should never have said anything in the first place. I think actually that conversation, that friction is a necessary part of participating in the zombies community. It's a necessary part of participating in any community revolving around an ever-changing piece of art that you are kind of surprised and shocked by at times. Other times you're wowed by it, you're enthralled by it. But underneath all of that, under the surface, you have an emotional connection to it. And you care.
I completely agree with
this. You wouldn't be critiquing it if you didn't give a damn. You wouldn't be sort of hoping that it could be the best possible thing if underneath all of that, you just didn't want to like it at all. Like, of course you want to like it. If you're going, oh yeah, I would like it even more if they did this and this and this. Like, that is a sign that you're a fan. And I don't want us to get in a scenario where somebody says, oh, I would have liked it more if they did blah. And then we say, oh, well, that's just the zombies community always doing that thing of like going back on its word and changing its mind. Because like, yeah, you're allowed to do that. Like, you're a human. And sometimes you might be more interested in getting a sci-fi fantasy story. And other times you might be more interested in the grounded, sort of redacted, alternate history story that's more real. Or sometimes you might prefer a Cold War Zombies gameplay, and other times you might prefer Black Ops 2 Zombies gameplay. Sometimes 2 Hit Down might feel like the pinnacle of zombies, and then you might start getting used to Modern Warfare 3 zombie system or something, and you might go, oh, I actually kind of like it like this. Or you might be like, oh, at first, I hated the idea of having an inventory in Modern Warfare 3 Zombies.
He's going off here.
Then I got used to it, and actually it is a really good change because I started playing the game in a different way, and that different way was still fun. And then you could come back to a game like Black Ops 6 Zombies with no inventory, and you could be like, oh, boo, that sucks, like I hate this, because the mode of the game that you've been playing for the last 12 months doesn't have the same kind of gameplay flow compared to the one that you're about to play. And so
what he is describing right now is the exact same thing that everyone says about multiplayer. They want change, and then when it happens, they get mad. They're like, I'm sick of Modern Warfare. Give me some Call of Duty. Give me some Treyarch Call of Duty. And then it comes out, and then it's more arcadey, and they're like, why are we doing this? Let's go back. It's the whole COD cycle, and it's the same thing with zombies. It's exactly what he is saying right now.
Having a bit of friction in moving into that is fine. That is not a problem. So in terms of whether we cause this for ourselves, yeah, we care a lot about zombies, but I want us to be very careful in making out like us having strong opinions is us being hypocritical. Like, I think there's room for that actually to be explained much more simply, and it's that we give a damn. And that's good. And iron sharpens iron. And the more critical and intelligent and thoughtful feedback that we give Treyarch, even if we change our mind in 6 months' time, the better they can understand, okay, so we did a thing that the zombies community didn't like, and then they ended up liking it. What can we do next time to make the friction reduced in our marketing campaign or in our day one offering or whatever?
He often talks about the marketing campaigns and stuff. And I find it interesting. I don't know if everyone does.
So the painful part of that process is lessened. Like, Treyarch can learn from that.
Also, and if you're a marketing team, you kind of want that friction as well, because a video like this will actually probably sell more games than it'll deter.
Us just saying nothing if we don't like something and then hoping that in 6 months' time we change our minds is not going to help Treyarch learn any of those lessons. So on this point, I just want to say, keep being vocal. Obviously, don't just like randomly say, oh, the devs are lazy or something. That's not the way to go. But don't shut up. Like, your voice being heard is important. So let's talk about what those voices are saying, right? What people are saying Treyarch got completely wrong with Liberty Falls. And there is a lot
12 things
of stuff here that people are really unhappy with. So I'm going to break them down and go one by one. Now, crucially, there are some counterpoints to the things that I'm going to write in these boxes, okay?
I'm going to say whether I agree or disagree with these things as he goes. If it needs an explanation, I'll pause it. Otherwise, we'll keep going because we have like a long time left in this.
Are coming down here. So don't be coming at my neck for saying something at point 4 here before I've given you the other side of the coin and telling me that I'm being hypocritical or imbalanced or something. This is the balance. It's down there, okay? Just to sort of make that very
Fair
clear.
enough.
In order to get to our final verdict, we gotta go through all this stuff first. So like, keep watching to the end, okay? Okay, in no particular order, Liberty Falls does not have a set crew. Treyarch have made it really clear
I agree with this.
Returning to the old round-based formula, and a massive part of that is a set crew, and we heard your feedback from Cold War Zombies that no set crew sucked ass.
So chat, yeah, I want you to do the same thing. Agree or disagree with each point.
And on Liberty Falls, we're not actually going to talk about whether or not we have a set crew until the very last moment, and then only when we're actually showing gameplay will we reveal that there's no set crew. This
Agreed.
is just objectively an L. It's something that some people don't care about. Like, if you look at the sort of Cold War Zombies fan base, they made do just fine without a set crew. So, like,
it is the
map
only
can
map
still be
without a
good
set
map,
crew.
even
Yes.
in the absence of a crew. But crucially, days before we got the Liberty Falls gameplay reveal,
Yes, okay, I know
we
where he's
got
going
the
with this.
intro cutscene, which heavily features Richtofen, and a lot of people were under the impression that Richtofen was going to be a playable character in
That's what I
the
thought.
map,
I even
which
said it in my video
obviously
about
is
it.
huge news for the zombies community, seeing as Richtofen hasn't been playable for so long now, and that would be a massive deal for the game. And instead of correcting the record on that point, when people's expectations were starting to sort of fly to the stratosphere,
instead, they will release him as a paid character in a bundle.
Treyarch let that happen and didn't say anything, and that led to a whole lot of people assuming that he would be playable in the map, and now he's not, and now people are upset. Number 2, there's no unique draw. What I mean by this is Origins. What's the first thing you think of? Is it giant robots? Or maybe Revelations? First thing you think of, is it the fact that it's massive islands that you jump between? Maybe actually it's the massive alien monster that you see in the map. Shangri-La. First thing you think of, maybe it's the Eclipse, but almost more likely, I would say, it's probably just the jungle.
Disagree with this one. As far as Treyarch map goes, this is the only daytime maps. And there's not enough scene to say that. I do agree with that, Alex. I think I disagree with this one.
In an actual jungle.
Let them cook.
5, it's being in the Pentagon, like the actual Pentagon. And then it's also the secret laboratories they have underneath the Pentagon. Random another map. Ancient Evil, let's go back to that. It's Greek myth personified or maponified. You've got so much Greek myth.
And you know what? It might be boring as hell when it comes out. And at that point, we can agree with this one, but I agree with Alex here. We haven't seen enough.
There, if you're a Greek myth fan, you're going to be eating with that.
You could have
map.
a crazy
Pegasus,
Easter egg.
Perseus, like all that sort of stuff. Like all of the best maps from over the years tend to have some central theme around which the rest of the design kind of gravitates. Like all of the choices
that
on the
I
map
agree with,
are made informed by that initial
this could
core
still
choice.
happen.
Even
I don't know.
something like Die Rise, right? If I said Die Rise, you probably think of skyscrapers, right? Pretty much all the decisions for the map design, the gameplay design on that map.
Well, and you could say the same thing about this. You could say, well, Liberty Falls, what do you think of? Oh, suburban town in the like 90s or whatever.
Related to the central theme of what would happen if you sort of turned a skyscraper upside down and that was your map. Like, then what, right? In fact, I'm pretty sure that that's the sort of design reference that Jimmy Zielinski gave the designers when he started on it. And even the maps that are hated from over the years, or they're less liked,
I think he's getting to that Flower
still
Flame.
have fairly central
But if he doesn't,
and
I will.
strong draws to them as well.
And Flower Flame is talking about the atmosphere of the map. I'm assuming there's going to be more to that.
Alpha Omega is perhaps one of the weakest Treyarch Zombies maps we've ever seen. And even so, this idea of Rushmore interacting with you as you play, and also the idea of there being 8 characters on that map, because you can obviously be characters from either Primus or Ultimus, like that is sick. That's so cool. But if you look at Liberty Falls and you ask yourself, what is the unique draw of Liberty Falls? I kind of come up blank right now. Like, it's got a fantastic intro cutscene, and the intro seems to show this
which we didn't see any of this stuff.
And so that might be the draw. Just like in Alpha Omega, you could maybe argue that like the underneath of the map is the draw, right? But the problem is, Alpha Omega is one of the least liked zombies maps of all time because, yeah, sure, like 40% of the map underneath is maybe the unique draw, but the other bit on top is so much less interesting to people. And Liberty Falls right now seems to be experiencing a similar thing where its central theme, right, its idea that is meant to lodge itself in your brain and manifest into 1,000 other ideas and possibilities and excitement and discovery and wonder, that right now, with what we've seen, is just it's a town, and there might be some Alpha Omega stuff under the town. And that as a draw for what we're currently seeing is weak.
It's
now,
a
granted,
town.
We're going to come back to this, but just from what we've seen, it's weak. Another criticism I've seen is how wide open the spaces are on the map. This map has so much breathing room everywhere. It's so weird.
Oh, the roofs.
If you look back at any zombies map from pre-Cold
I disagree with
War,
this though. On the
idea
streets
of having this much expansive space is insanity. Like, if we think about Alpha Omega, let's do that. Or we think about Nuketown Zombies, similar play space. Or we think about Gorod Krovi, also set in like a city. So we've got that kind of
okay, I kind of see where he's going with this.
All of those maps are actually really enclosed. Like, the actual amount of space that you have at any given time is really limited. And then if you think, okay, well, an exception to that could be transit, for instance, the key differentiator is that
lava.
in transit, there's the fog present, which acts as a permanent deterrent to prevent you from actually spending a large amount of time in the wide open spaces, and instead
town from Black
confining
Ops
you to
2.
much
It
smaller
was a
play
town.
areas. Similarly, the lava does exactly that. You almost start with an open canvas. Why am I
disagree
doing
or-
this when I have a canvas next to me? You sort of start with this big box of open space, and then it's like, okay, actually, this much of it is fog.
Do I agree
Actually,
or
this much
disagree
of it
with
is
this?
lava. The denizens are going to get you here. The denizens are going to get you there. And you're like, oh, okay, I can actually only go in that little middle section. So even in maps that have seemed big in the
I think this is a thing of either you like that in the map or you don't. You could even say that the unique draw of this map is that there's wide open spaces, so it's good for grinding.
past that seemed open. They've used smart design features to actually limit the amount of space that you use during your gameplay.
It's dependent on
But
taste.
in
Yeah, I
this
agree.
map, there's none of that. There's literally none of that. Like, we saw people going consistently to round 50, and they were just roaming. They were just roaming around without a care in the world.
I like
there was
tight
no,
maps.
oh, I don't want to go up here because that's going to mean that I start getting zapped by this thing, or this other thing attacks me, or I do a certain thing that's dangerous, or a certain thing happens that I would want to avoid. There's none of that. Like, even Terminus has that, right? In Terminus, if you go in the water,
Yeah, of
there's a
course you
sea
got to get your
monster
hands
that will
on to
start
actually
attacking
see.
you, and it will start spawning in other things that will start attacking you. And so there's risk reward of, if I want to make use of the true expanse of all this space, then there's a negative consequence for doing that, in a very similar way to how it works on transit, let's say. But
Okay.
Liberty Falls just lets you kind of do what you want. And that doesn't feel like zombies. And again, we'll come back to this, but at its core, a really broad open map doesn't feel like zombies. It certainly doesn't feel like round-based zombies. And this brings us to my next point. I'm going to test you real quick just to make sure that you're still awake, you're still listening, okay? First
I know
of
what he's
all,
gonna go. I know what he's
leave
gonna
a comment on the video saying like balls or something, just to make sure that I know you're still with us. But then tell me, does this look like Liberty Falls? It is Liberty Falls, okay?
Yeah.
Next question, does this look like Liberty Falls? Yeah, that's still Liberty Falls. Okay, let's keep going. Does this look like Liberty Falls?
Yeah, I know where he's going
Okay,
with this.
let's stop there. That last one was not
Outbreak?
Liberty Falls. It's Glover from
Yeah.
Outbreak. I think when you're marketing a game, and part of that marketing, part of the thrust that you are engaging in, is to say, we recognize that our previous map design left a lot to be desired because there was no environmental storytelling, because it was just reused assets and it was generic and it didn't feel like zombies. And so we're moving away from that now. We're no longer doing that thing. They're brand new maps, right? For that to be the thrust of where you're going with something, and for you to then release a map that looks nearly indistinguishable from the exact type of design that you yourself
Middle
were
ground on this.
criticizing moments ago, I think you're setting yourself up for some trouble there. And it doesn't just end there, because the map is quite literally a multiplayer map. Liberty Falls is in Black Ops 6 multiplayer. Like, we saw people playing.
Okay, it's a different area, but I get the complaint of this. But I believe they have stated that the multiplayer map was taken off of the zombies map, not vice versa.
This map, or at least a corner of it, for like an hour before we jumped into Liberty Falls. And so a question I would just pose the Activision marketing team, okay, is separate to whether or not Liberty Falls is good or bad, or any of those sorts of questions, okay? Just a sort of a question of marketing theory, let's say, okay? When you're marketing your zombies maps as being brand new and not reused assets and different to everything you've ever done, do you think it's a good idea to choose
okay.
to show
I'm siding
the
with him a little
multiplayer
bit
map
more.
that also shares that play space for an hour
a
before
good
jumping
point.
into the zombies map, and then still trying to convince people that it's brand new? Like,
It's a
even
good
in
point.
the world
This is a good
where we
point, just
recognize the
marketing-wise.
fact, the truth of the matter here, that Treyarch did the zombies map first, and then they realized that it could also be an MP map. Even with that recognition in place, just me to you, from a marketing perspective, do you think you're doing yourself any favors by showing it in MP form for an hour and then showing it in zombies form? And people being like, oh,
Like,
that building...
Take away the part of whether it's a good or bad thing that there's a similar thing in both. The marketing aspect of this is dumb, and he's right here.
looks the same, because it is the same. Oh, that fried chicken shop is in both of the maps. Like, do you think that you're making your life easier there? I would argue no. I would argue that is a massive marketing blunder, and I don't really understand how it's happened, because there's 16 new maps in Black Ops 6 multiplayer at launch?
And that alone doesn't mean the map's bad. Agreed with that. It just means that it's bad marketing mistake.
Something like that at least. So why are you showing the specific one that causes all the zombies community?
And I don't know if he's going to say this, and I'll say this now, is thanks for the positivity there, Ghost. With what he's saying here, what the heck was I going to say? Ghost distracted me. Oh, yes, the marketing behind it. I also think it's dumb that they showed Liberty Falls at Call of Duty Next. It should have been Terminus at Call of Duty Next, because that's where all the serious people are watching the game. And to put like the fun, the easy map, or whatever you want to say, into Next is... you're welcome for the distraction. Distractions are always good, my friend. But for them to put that into Next, I think is a bad decision in and of itself as well.
To assume the worst and just think that it's reused assets. Like, you are asking people to understand a level of nuance there that you yourselves are not putting enough marketing effort into actually broadcasting, and so you're setting yourself up for failure. Like, I just think that it's a really unfortunate misstep in the marketing approach, because it means that this conversation we're having about everything here, it being too wide open, looking like Outbreak Galova, being literally an MP map, this would be colored with so much less kind of spiciness, like so much less ferocity from the zombies community, if we had just dodged this amplifying factor that is us seeing it for an hour in MP form, and then it just being the zombies map as well. Like, I've seen people on Reddit, right, taking this screenshot of the Liberty Falls Gobblegum machine, and the caption on it is something along the lines of, oh my god, it doesn't look like zombies, right? And like, this is ridiculous. And I've seen pushback on those memes because other people are saying, you don't think anything looks like zombies. Like, here's a screenshot from Shadows of Evil. Didn't look like zombies when there was a parasite flying around. Like, we've never seen that in zombies before. Of course it looked different. So I've seen this kind of pushback. The problem is, it doesn't look like zombies because, again, for the previous hour, it wasn't zombies. It looked like the map that we just saw, which was a multiplayer map, because it is the multiplayer map. So it's a disingenuous argument to be like, shut up about it not looking like zombies. Like, it does look like zombies. Well, okay, fine. But it also looks like a multiplayer map because it is one. Like, I would even go as far as saying that some of the Black Ops 3 DLC maps for multiplayer at the end of the DLC cycle, like that one with, it's like a snake kind of themed,
I know what he's going to say, and it's going to contradict his argument.
Somehow looks more like a zombies map than Liberty Falls does, which is...
You can't say that and in the same sentence say it's also a multiplayer map if it looks more zombies, because then you're distinctly saying that there's a specific look to zombies, which is the exact argument you were just contradicting. So they just should have taken a step back on that one.
Crazy. But
I get what he's saying. I agree with them.
We're going to come back to these points. Another minor gripe I've seen people expressing, and I also felt this was kind of weird on stream, is that there's this vault in Liberty Falls, and you do this thing with a code, you get into this vault, and then you can get loot from the vault. But the problem is that we consistently saw streamers getting different rarities of keys, not just the base level, like common rarity key that opens one of the vault boxes, but higher rarities as well. Like, I think I saw a gold key at one point, potentially. And when those keys were being used in the vault, even at higher rounds, 30 plus, 40 plus, the rewards from the loot boxes in the vault sucked. Consistently 4 salvage, or 2 salvage and crappy. A decoy, like stuff like that. And it's a different kind of gripe
this
to
could
all of this
be
other
buff.
stuff, but it is still a relevant thing to comment on, because Modern Warfare 3 Zombies had a real problem with introducing tasks that it set out as being the hardcore community's replayable action, right? Like something that was a pinnacle objective, let's say. And then what would happen is the community would do those things, and the rewards they'd get at the end would potentially suck. Like, I would have no reason to want to read.
This has been a problem with Call of Duty for a long time. Another example of this outside of zombies is the raids in Modern Warfare 2. They consistently made the rewards better throughout the season, but still the replayability of it was just like
do those rifts if the thing that I'm getting at the end is one ammo mod or it's a blue wrench or something. Like that happened a lot this past year.
This is very true.
Obviously, the community is going to be worried about just getting crap rewards when they're putting a lot of time into doing these sorts of things in game. Again, we'll come back to this. Another criticism I've seen people level at Liberty Falls is that there's clearly no required wonder weapon quest in the map, no required pack-a-punch quest in the map. Like all of the
this was the easiest pack-a-punch I've ever seen on a zombies map. You just walk into the church.
Top stuff that you typically do in a zombies map felt like it
like no
wasn't
turning on
there.
power,
And
nothing
so,
like that.
For Pack-a-Punch, you just walk into the building and you pap, and that's it. Similarly, when you get the jet gun to upgrade it, like I could mention that here too. It's not just that you could get the jet gun out of the box. Like we see that in basic.
Okay, so here's my opinion on this. I think that there is going to either be another wonder weapon or an upgrade quest for it that is not launched yet. And I think that's a bad thing to complain about. When the quests for the map, they specifically said they're not in there for this build because we don't want to give them away. So I don't like, yeah, it wasn't a finished version exactly.
All zombies maps is not the end of the world, but it's also the fact that when you get the jet gun, you just walk over to the pack machine and hold square and it pack-a-punches it straight away. There's no quest, there's no thinking, there's no zombies essence to it. It just feels like the most simple possible version of what a zombies experience could be if you strip out those sorts of things. So I've seen those criticisms. Again, we'll come back to that. Also, a continuous criticism I see of just modern Black Ops 6 zombies, Cold War zombies as a whole, but also specifically, and especially I think with Liberty Falls, is that it really feels like they're just pandering to multiplayer and Warzone players at all times. This really is something that you're only going to agree with if you generally hate all of modern zombies. So you hated this in Cold War too, but things like ammo crate.
I was going to disagree with this, but the point he just made is, yeah, if you don't like this, you don't like all of modern zombies. So, yeah, like...
It's being on the map. Doesn't feel
somewhat
like
agree.
Zombies. Just feels like Warzone, right? The fact that the armor system is mandatory now doesn't feel like zombies. Just feels like Warzone. The fact that you spawn in with a loadout weapon just feels like...
I think that what Navy, what you said there, do you think that maybe they want to draw in players to zombies with this map? Yes. I think that's exactly, and I think that's okay. And maybe when it comes out, people will actually like it. Maybe there's more to it than we don't know, but
like Warzone
let
doesn't
the man
feel
cook.
like zombies. Like the fact that those things exist. And granted, we're coming back to this, okay? But that's an argument that I see a lot of people making continuously about the modern direction that zombies has gone in. And I think regardless of where you stand on it, I think that we would probably agree that many of those changes that I've just described, like for example, the introduction of armor, I think that that is definitely there because of Warzone. I don't think that there is a world where the Treyarch team, if Warzone didn't exist, sat down one day, thought about what zombies needed in Black Ops 3 and went, you know what?
Why? This is actually a good question. Why does zombies need armor? Like if there's already Juggernog and ways to increase your health, why does it need armor? Like, is it so to like put in the thing, oh, give yourself space and then you can add additional health when you have time? Like, I kind of like it. I don't know.
The main thing that this is missing is an extra armor system layered on top here. Like, I just don't think that that was what they had in mind. They had other things in mind, like shields, for instance. That's sort of an armor system in its own way, but a very different conception of it, right? I don't think that Treyarch were thinking back then, I really wish we could just get rid of the shield and build an armor system, but we don't have the resources to do it. Like, I don't think when Warzone came along and armor was built for Warzone, I don't think Treyarch went, thank God, this thing that we already had a conception of for all of these years that we wanted in zombies can now be implemented. Instead, I think it was the other way around. I think armor was in the game, and then they went, okay, how do we fit this into zombies so that it feels more unified across the mode?
Is that why? Or is it just like, we already have this system built, let's use it because we've wanted an armor system? I don't think they can necessarily say it's just, oh, we did it because Warzone did it. It might be because they built this system, they already have it, it's the easiest for them to implement even though they already wanted this system.
It's because players are going to be playing Warzone, getting used to plating up, etc. And then they're going to jump into zombies and they're going to be confused about why they're dying in 2 or 3 hits. And like that's going to create some dissonance.
That's
so we
possible.
need to change zombies to match the more popular product, Warzone. So even if you don't care about there being armor and ammo crates and loadouts and stuff like that, I think we can probably agree that the impetus for those changes was not because it would optimize the perfect zombies experience and it was a zombies first decision, but it's more likely that those changes came from outside and then they were integrated into zombies in a way that would be as frictionless as possible. Like the Treyarch Zombies team would have done everything they could to make it a win for zombies instead of a loss, but the orders still probably came from outside the house.
I don't think they were forced to put it in.
We talked about how they were going to make it more difficult to hit round 100, right? We talked about that. And also that the main quest would be more challenging than Cold War, stuff like that. Like they clearly have difficulty as a concept in mind, and yet it looks way too easy. Like you had several people putting up 40 plus games, if not 50 plus games. Duke Dennis, round 50. Duke Dennis, like from the zombies community's perspective, who? And yet he's hitting around 50 at COD Next on his first time playing the map. Lego, round 50, okay, like makes a little bit more sense. Dalek, I think he got kicked off when he was at round 48 or something. Like the core zombies gang putting up some numbers, okay, sure. But also on your first go of the map? And this is going to be harder than Cold War? Like that is not inspiring a lot of confidence when Treyarch says it's harder and then the evidence says, no, it's not. You can get to round 50 easy peasy. So that's created a lot of confusion, I think. And I think that's been exacerbated by the fact that the zombies themselves, when they hit you, are
He hasn't talked about the HUD elements yet.
So I did a little calculating
Goblin.
based
I don't
on
know
the
if he
gameplay
will,
that we
but
saw
I
in
can if he
Lego's
doesn't.
stream. It's a 5 hit down when you have no jug. So you have 150 HP and zombies do 30 damage per hit. So 30 times 5, 150 HP, gone, you're dead. 5 hits. Adding jug gives you an extra 100 HP, so you get to 250 HP, which makes it a 9 hit down. That's without armor, and that's when zombies are doing 30 damage per hit. A hit received while you have armor does 18 damage instead of 30. Now, armor also, just to give you a stat on that, each plate breaks in about 4 hits roughly, and so you'll need 12 hits to break all of your armor.
Oh
and
my
so if we
God.
just run a little hypothetical here, let's say you're starting to be hit by zombies when you have 3 full plates and max health. If you replenish 1 plate while you're being hit and your stuff's being broken, then we can effectively say you had 4 plates on, and it's 4 hits to break a plate, so that's roughly 16 hits to get rid of all of your armor. But obviously you take health damage while that's going on, and I said that it's 18 damage per hit while you have plates.
There's a reason why they're doing this, though. I'm going to pause it after this.
14 hits before your 250 health is all gone. And so obviously 14 is lower than 16. So the first thing that happens is you die rather than your 4th plate breaking. So with 3 plates, so long as you replenish 1 as you go, it's a 14 hit down. That, as a statement, sounds so crazy.
So the reason why they do this is because they want bigger hordes of zombies. And if the bigger hordes of zombies, the more quickly you're going to get hit. On top of that, you have like your mega abominations, your manglers, everything like that, which are going to do more damage, and they want more of that in the game. So that is why they do that. But I also understand why this is ridiculous. So let's be clear about that. I do think that that is like a ridiculousness, but I also get why they do it. And on top of this, the one thing that I would like to know is there any plan at all to make zombies do more damage the higher rounds you go to?
When in zombies, we're used to like 2 hit down from back in the day. The fact that it's 14 is nuts. But then you think, okay, hold on a second. Cold War exists. They changed how these things work. We've had armor for a while. And in that context, 14 hit down doesn't sound that crazy. But the problem is that they've made such a big deal of the fact that in this game, we're going back to round-based zombies, the old formula.
I see where he's going with this.
It's bringing back the classic style,
that Cold War,
right?
I believe,
all of those
is like
sorts
that,
of statements. And so when you have those things in one ear, like when the company in your ear is telling you one thing.
So here's the thing Milo and the rest of the zombies community needs to understand. When they say they're going to back to round-based zombies, they are talking about round-based zombies from Cold War. The brains of executives and even the vast majority of players do, when you hear round-based zombies, they're not like me, they're not like you, they're not like Milo. where they think, oh, Call of Duty World at War, oh, Black Ops 1, oh, Black Ops 2. They're going, oh, Cold War had round-based zombies, we're going back to that. So I get what he's saying, and he's right in saying it, but the majority of people are going to think he's wrong. Does that make sense?
And then you got Mr. Rufflewaffles in your other ear telling you that it's a 14 hit down. That's naturally going to create a bit of conflict in your brain where you're like, what the? That's not classic. That's insane. So that's another criticism. Again, we'll come back to that in a second here. But the greatest critique out of everything that I've shown actually summarizes and pulls in some of these other points as well is quite simply the fact that the map has no aura. The ambience, the aesthetic, the tone, all of these things do not scream zombies map.
I get this, and I think it's dumb all at the same time. If you compare this to like a map like Moon, for example, like night and day, like there's this sense of, I was going to say mystery, but I don't think mystery is right. A sense of wonder, a sense of this isn't real, that zombies normally brings, that this doesn't. This game looks like Dead Island. Or sorry, this map looks like Dead Island. It looks like The Walking Dead or Days Gone or any other zombies game that takes place in the real world. It doesn't look like Call of Duty Zombies. And I understand how you can be frustrated with that, but at the same time, what if it's good? What if it works? Looks like Outbreak, yes. But what if it works? It absolutely may not. And to have one zombies map that's more wondrous, if you will, and then like where you have that giant worm that comes out of the water, and one map that's more grounded, I think it's not a bad way of doing this. To say, now, do I think this map is going to be good? I have no idea. No idea. But
alone good zombies map. And like I said, this is manifested by many of these other points, right? No set crew reduces the ambience. Wide open spaces reduces the ambience. No unique draw reduces the ambience. Looks like a multiplayer map reduces the ambience. No quests needed. Honestly, reduces the ambience. You feel less like you're participating in this extremely elaborate and deep world when you don't need to participate in those systems in order to get what you want, right? You just walk.
Just reading chat. I don't know if Treyarch is going to be able to make big changes on this map based off of the feedback. I don't know. And honestly, the Easter egg may change the aura as it is. We have to wait and see.
Walk in and hit square and you're like, okay, I've packed now, yummy. That reduces the ambience. That negatively contributes to the aura. It brings the whole thing down. There
were areas that were off limits, yes, on the map.
It's so bright out in the map. Like, it's got Outbreak lighting. If you think back to other maps that have been daylight, you could reference a map like a Verrucht, for instance, which had this almost sickly sunlight to it, which honestly really contributed to how creepy the map felt, I think. If you think of a map like a Shangri-La, Shang, obviously very bright sunlight, which feels like it
So aura, I think, is a dumb word, but like wonder is, I think, a better word to compare the zombies maps. On almost all of the zombies maps, there's something that gives you a sense of wonder that is not in realism. You know what I'm saying?
Matches the jungle tone, but then during the Easter egg, it's nighttime a lot of the time, so that fixes the sort of ambience problem that might have been present there. 9, very bright sunny map, but in your head you're kind of imagining you're in the blistering sun in the middle of this gladiator, what do you call them, chamber, coliseum? I can't remember now. Whatever that thing's called. You're sort of staring the sun down while all these people are watching you, like the pressure is on. It's almost like a cloying environment around you while you're playing the map. And so what I'm getting at here is that it's totally possible to have a bright map and it to be totally fine, and also for it to still feel like zombies and for it to have aura. Like, the aura of 9 is enhanced by the fact that looming down on you the entire time are these statues of these gods that are enormous. Like, there's so much other stuff that really makes it
things
feel
like that's what we're saying here.
The ribbon has been tied on top.
What's the Titanic map? That's I think such a good example of something that is based in realism but covered in wonder in the map. Don't know why I can't think of the name, but I think you guys know what I'm talking about.
Presented to you as a complete holistic experience, whereas Liberty Falls feels like a town. during the day. And it's not just any
Voyage,
old
yes.
town, because you could argue that Kino is just a theater during the day, right? You could make that argument. But there is so much else in Kino that feels so dripping in ambience and aesthetic and art direction, right? The art direction of Kino is so inspired,
Yeah,
it feels
it's
like.
more
It feels both majestic
driven.
and also like this, the majesty itself has been mutilated. I mean, that's a sort of theme of the story of the map as well. The idea of this German
Voyage is a cool
pursuit
aesthetic, but gameplay is awful.
of super soldiers and of,
Okay.
of mind control and experimentation that may have had noble origins, noble initiations, noble beginnings, and that then became corrupted over time, and that corruption then spread and rot and became so deeply set in the broader kind of ethos of what was being done in that site that it caused its downfall. I'm like, physically, I think about Kino to Toten, and it's one of the simplest maps of all time, and I'm still like, oh, so good.
So, okay, this is actually a really good point. Time Weaver just said there's also a missing feeling of being isolated, you against the world. I think that's on purpose, because I think that this map is designed to show the outbreak or an outbreak, like where it is starting. Because what we saw in that cutscene shows us that, oh my God, it's happening. They're coming. And it's supposed to be the beginning of this. You're not supposed to be isolated yet. Now, I could be wrong in this, and I could be getting the complete wrong vibe, but there's that.
Where is that in Liberty Falls? Where? It is just not. It doesn't feel like it's there. And I say this.
We got some agreement
also,
with that. It
having
makes
been
sense.
there. And there's so much of the map that is similar to stuff that I.
Okay, so this was the point that I wanted to make at some point. He did his whole side quest mission where he went to Liberty Falls, and I thought he was going to reveal the map, is what I thought was going to happen. And then he hypes it up to an extent that, like, everything he is doing is booming on YouTube, even streaming making food. And then he puts out this video about Liberty Falls. And man, I wonder how this would be different if he was at Call of Duty Next. I just do. It's a weird vibe knowing that he did this whole side quest. It wasn't with Treyarch. It was for Liberty Falls. He made it up himself. And then it's very weird. It's very, very weird.
Vaguely, and it's definitely not clear memories, but I vaguely remember from being in the real life location. Like, I look at it and I'm like, damn, they've done an incredible job of porting over the real life feeling of this town and putting it in zombies. They have done a really good job there. Like, I cannot possibly fault
I agree with
them
that from what I've
for
seen
the
in
way
his
that they
video.
ported things over. The problem is that there's porting things over from real life into the game, and there's then zombifying it in a way that really feels convincing and makes it no longer feel like Outbreak Galova. And that is what...
Okay, Kev, he's way too honest. That's why they won't never invite him. They invited him to play at Terminus. Like, at the event that had like 12 people at it. So that's why I don't understand that.
Like I said, people have been saying Treyarch have failed on, that's where they've gone wrong, and the map has no aura as a result.
Also, I get invited and I rip the game apart
Let's just
constantly.
breathe for a moment. There's a lot of stuff here
I love
that
it,
has a lot of
but I rip it
criticism
apart.
baked into it, right? It's got a lot of critique. There's a lot of unhappiness in the community that is coming out in these areas, right? It's sort of leaking through and is manifesting in these complaints. So now, let's just level with each other for a second and let's engage in good faith to understand whether some of these points have valid counterpoints, right? Maybe there's areas where the zombies community are actually just completely wrong about some of the things that are being said here. So I want you to...
I am interested in this part. I am curious to see if he completely counters them or just kind of gives ideas of how they could be fixed.
think about this with an open mind without automatically being like, well, these things have happened and therefore the game is bad, right? Let's just try and see both sides of the equation so we can make our final verdict afterwards. First of all, let's maybe dispel some things that are really easily dispelled. So first off, like, why is there no Pack-a-Punch quest? Why is there no basic Wonder Weapon quest or whatever? Part of the reasoning behind that is that Easter eggs, including side quests, were turned off for the Liberty Falls play session at COD Next.
True.
This means that, of course, we didn't see people starting to solve the Easter egg because there was no Easter egg active in the map. Like, it wasn't there to be found. And this has a whole load of consequences baked into it. Number one, it means that if there is Easter eggy
As someone who has been in the zombies community for about 15 years, they are wrong about 80% of the time.
dialogue, for instance, that maybe would have been triggered by
Basement
certain
section,
things
yeah.
happening, that dialogue might have been disabled because the Easter egg itself was disabled, and that might have negatively contributed to the aura of what we saw. Like, imagine
Completely agree.
if in Alpha Omega you turned off any potential interaction with Rushmore,
Which again, if that is the case, and this map is very different, like for example, the way you get Pack-a-Punch or Wonder Weapon or anything like that, and it changes the aura and the way that the map is played from having that enabled, that is a huge marketing mistake to have that at next, because then that doesn't show what this map really is.
in Transit, for instance,
Dalek said that on the mini-map there were icons for trial machines and teleporters, but they were disabled. So things like that, you could teleport into the basement or wherever.
you
I
turned
don't
off
know.
any ability to ever hear a voice in your head telling you to do a certain step. That would negatively contribute to the aura, right? And so similarly here, maybe that has also happened in this case, but that won't be the case when we get the map, like, on launch. Now, granted, that's a maybe. I don't know, but I'm saying that it's worth at least
It's kind of like we played
Another
Liberty
thing
Falls
to
Light.
consider
Good
is
point.
the unique draw, right? We talked about that up here, there being no unique draw like some of these other maps. That could just be under the map, right? Very
Could
similar
be.
to Alpha Omega. They could have just said, yeah, we'll
That's
make
being, I think,
the
a
most
little
exciting,
generous, but
interesting,
could be.
custom, unique looking part of it underground, and all the stuff up top
Liberty
will just look like a
stumbles.
normal town. But when you start getting really used to playing the map, you'll actually never really go above ground because it's downstairs where the real juice is. Maybe. Again, this is completely speculation.
Actually,
there could
oddly, one thing that he hasn't talked about here is the HUD. I wonder if he will talk about that.
be no underground area. Like that bit in the cutscene where he goes down the elevator, that could be purely for the story, and we might never go down there. There's a possibility, but
a good
equally,
point.
there is a possibility that there's a whole new world underneath the map that we just haven't
HUD
seen
is
yet. And
customizable,
combined with the
yeah.
fact that the Easter egg's turned off, there's no wonder we
But
haven't seen it yet because
to what
it's probably
extent in
Easter egg
zombies,
related,
I don't know.
right? So that's just worth considering. Another Easter egg related thing. Maybe the Easter egg itself, similar to Shangri-La, turns the skybox a different color, makes it feel a lot more like you're in the dark ether. Maybe actually at one point you can flick a switch and the whole map becomes
Hold up.
a dark ether. Maybe it just becomes dark ether.
I gotta find something.
Ether
I'm gonna let him
We
cook.
don't know.
I gotta
We
find
don't know
something.
if
This
there's a
is
toggle
huge.
somewhere that means that actually Liberty Falls is in the grip of a giant snake tentacle monster.
I think there's actually evidence of this, and if you want to clip something, clip what I'm about to do, because I think it is for the Terminus Black Ops 6 trailer. They show Liberty Falls at the end. Oh, what one is it in though? And is it this one? I gotta find this. I gotta find this. I think. Yeah, it is. Okay, I found it. Yep. So exactly what he is saying, how the skybox could change and everything like this, there's proof of this. I forgot about this until he said this. So we get the whole Terminus trailer, and then this plays. Look at this. Look at this. So this is like the entrance to the church. But then we have something crazy, like a body floating through the church. This is the church from Liberty Falls. And it's upside down. So what if we are actually only seeing half of this map? What if we are actually seeing the above the ether part, and there's a whole other part where we have the exact same map, but upside down? And the way to get into that was through the church. That's why the Pack-a-Punch was there, and everyone's complaining about this thing. Meanwhile, this is what we're missing. I mean, a huge what if. The map might suck still, but I think I have a solid point.
We don't know. Now, it would be very valid for you to come back to me here and say, these three things all sound like copium because I've raised all these critiques, and this is just a way of saying, well, the critiques don't matter because what if they have a solution? Like, that's essentially the power of what I've just said. But still, we have to recognize we don't know everything about the map yet. And therefore, maybe some of the things that we're worrying about are not actually problems. It's possible. And implicit within that also, like when we go back to this question of the Pack-a-Punch quest, it might be that the reason that Pack-a-Punch itself was just instantly active is because the Easter eggs were not just turned off, but they were set in such a way that the Pap quest was on by default.
Yeah,
like it had been
you're probably right there, Killer Shark. How likely is it that the map turns out to be good and everyone still hates it until 2 years later? Most likely.
Almost. And maybe when we play the map for the first time on launch, there will actually be some steps that we need to do in order to get the pack open or get the pack working or whatever. Maybe. Another important detail, augments were off. And so amongst the criticism that I've seen of the fact that it's just Cold War Zombies 2, like it's exactly the same formula as Cold War Zombies, and there's nothing different, nothing unique, nothing really sparking excitement and theory crafting about how best to play the game or whatever. Amongst that conversation, we should be remembering the fact that there is this whole upgrade system that's built into the game that's seemingly quite a large part of the game that we just didn't see any of because they switched it off for COD Next. And that
like
might
Shadows
be a
of Evil
massive
wasn't liked
like
until way later,
As soon as
exactly.
augments are on, you can start really building these crazy builds that make the gameplay moment to moment a lot more exciting. Maybe. Again, it's speculation, but I'm approaching this in good faith and trying to find balance where I can. Because, spoiler
like
alert,
all
for
of
some
the other
people,
Zombies maps.
I am capable of not only being negative. Yeah, it's crazy, isn't it? On top of that, we need to remember that the game is not finished. Like, it is not done. We are still months out from launch, and so things like how many hits you take before you go down could absolutely still change. Like 14 hit down today could be 9 hit down tomorrow. We just don't know.
Forged. It was fun during
I don't
the
think that particular
next
thing
stream
is
to
something
play
that's
it.
actually going to change, but there's a possibility because Treyarch did
But I
say,
get what people
right?
are
This
saying
is the reason
still.
I put these quotes here at the start of the video. Treyarch specifically said they wanted the main quest to be more challenging. They wanted it to be fundamentally harder. They wanted it to be more difficult to hit round 100, but they were unsure how to do that yet. And that was a month ago. Maybe they're still unsure how to do that now. Maybe they'll figure that out in 2 weeks' time, and
Doubt
then
it,
getting to
but
round 50
sure.
won't be the cakewalk that we just saw it being.
Yeah, I heard that they featured me during Zombies. Someone in my chat told me that. Was it when I died? Was it when I was going for exfil and then I got stuck in the bank? Is that what happened?
Also, on the difficulty point, I think it's important to remember that seeing Lego Unlocked survive until round 50, or seeing Dalek survive until round 50, is very different to seeing the average player survive until round 50. These guys are good. And so it might be that part of what we were seeing looked easier than it really is,
True.
just because it was in the hands of skilled players, right? That's also worth keeping in mind. So as I sort of go through some of these counterpoints here, before I get into the meaty stuff in a moment, let's just mark which of these other gripes have kind of got some kind of balance or counterpoint to them. I think the no set crew thing is just objectively bad. I think
Yes, I
that
agree.
is going to be a negative contribution to the aura, the ambience, the story, etc. No matter which way you slice it. So no change there, no unique draw. Let's maybe circle that so that we can just sort of see that it's got a potential
change.
counterpoint. Maybe the unique draw is under the map. The wide open spaces, I don't think there's really a counter to. And especially
just the way the
looks
map
like
is.
Outbreak and the multiplayer map stuff, like I think no matter how you slice
That could change depending on what happens with the Easter egg, whether we go into the Dark Ether, whether it changes the skybox. That could change.
it does just look like that. The bad vault rewards, again, that's another one where game's not finished. That could change. It could have been that that's because Easter eggs were turned off. Like, we don't know.
be.
So I think that has a counter.
Like, what
So
if part of the Easter egg is you have to use those vault keys to open things inside the vault and you get things for the Easter egg, and that's what we weren't seeing. And maybe those things are to actually upgrade the Wonder Weapon, and that's why we weren't seeing any of this.
no required quest next. Well, there being no upgrade quest, again, maybe it was because that they turned Easter eggs off. They just allowed you to upgrade it just off the jump. And maybe that's why there was no Pack-a-Punch as well. We don't really know, but maybe. So I'll circle those. Pandering to MP players, I think is an objective fact. I don't think there is a counter there. Looks easy, well it does, but again, it could be tweaked to be harder, just like how Black Ops 4 Zombies pre-launch was harder, and they actually made it easier just before the game came out. Like, these tweaks
I didn't
can
know that
happen,
one.
right?
I didn't know
the
that one.
Zombies being weak as hell, it's kind of the same thing, to be honest. That it's just too easy. And then the no aura one is like, well, hard to say. I think it's got some counterpoints, like, yeah, Easter eggs will give it aura. The main quest, if it flips the skybox, will give it aura. If there's an underground area where it's anti-gravity and you're on the moon or something, and there's like...
Imagine if part of the Easter egg, or part of just doing the map, slowly out from the church, the ether starts to take over buildings. So to enter that building, you have to go through one of those ether portal things. And slowly, the different areas around the map become more and more ether-like until the entire skyboxes, and that's where you fight the final boss. I'm just throwing ideas out there.
Some bananas thing underground there. Yeah, aura. Like, all those things will contribute, but also the fact of the matter is that the map still looks the way the map does.
And the big problem with that is, say, for example, like Cold War, if you're just grinding for zombies camo and not doing the Easter egg, that won't change. In other words, the map is just going to look like that while you do that. And that sucks.
And just for, 90% of players who are only going to see the stuff that we saw today, because they're not going to do the Easter egg.
Exactly. That's exactly what I was just saying.
Yeah, they're going to look at the map like, yeah, it looks like a multiplayer map, right? So I almost don't feel like this has a major counter to it. But I think just from what I've sort of circled here, you start to see a pattern emerging, which is that I think a lot of the problems that we're seeing are actually poor marketing decisions rather than poor gameplay design decisions.
Completely agree.
I'll find another color here. I'm running out of colors. I think I'll go with...
This is the best point he's made in the entire thing.
Blue yet. So let's give Treyarch the benefit of the doubt, and let's say that underneath the map, there's a crazy area that is really high in aura points, high aesthetic, high ambience, all those things are really covered. Let's say the Easter egg quest is sick. Let's say that all the sort of necessary assumptions that would work in this section's favor are true, okay? In that scenario, would you market the game the way that Treyarch have over the past several weeks? Specifically this map.
So this is what I said earlier on, is that if they were doing this, and they knew that this map was boring and that it looked too casual without the Easter egg, why would they show this map instead of Terminus at next?
Would you market this map this way? Because what does the Liberty Falls intro tell us? Well, it tells us that there is an underground, so that's a step in the right direction, but it doesn't show us gameplay of the underground area. And it also shows a character going underground who we know is not the playable character in the map. So it doesn't give the player reassurance that that is indeed part of the play space. All of the other material has only shown above ground. And so if you knew that there was this cool thing down there and you knew that...
Here's how I market it. Here's how I market it, and I don't know if they could have done this. They give us 20 minutes of zombies playtime. They put us in the map. They give us 20 minutes of zombies playtime. Every single person at Call of Duty Next is playing it. At that 20 minutes, the gameplay cuts out for everyone, and that opening cinematic plays. Fixes the whole issue. People are like, okay, what happens next? We didn't get to see what happens more. Hire me for marketing.
People would be worried about the wide open spaces, worried that it looked like an Outbreak map, worried it looked like a multiplayer map. Those things could be fixed with a marketing change to say that, yes, there is a massive thing buried under there that you're going to explore and it's 60% of the play space. You don't even need to necessarily show it, but like if you said those sorts of words in the blog post, people would be like, oh, okay, we're only scratching the surface here. Similarly, with the Easter eggs, sure, turning them off is good, don't get me wrong, but do you think that you would just leave it with no Wonder Weapon quest stuff, no Pack-a-Punch quest stuff? Like, would you let the rumors and the fear and the doubt just fly if you were Treyarch, if you were in charge of these decisions? Or would you, during the COD Next stream, say, yeah, in this version of the map, these things are turned off, and therefore it's going to look more simple in these areas, and sort of outline that? And would you then go on to say, in the actual map itself, Pack-a-Punch is not switched on by default. There is some complexity to it. You're not going to be able to get the weapon out of the box straight away. Would you even maybe say, right now, the health, for instance, is temporary. These are early numbers. We just
acknowledge the fact that he still hasn't put on the sixth part, the final part about what the zombies community got wrong, and I'm so curious.
Finalized. Would you speak to the concern that you would have known would be coming, right? Having said that you're going to make the game harder, you would know that putting some of the best zombies players in the world into the map would result in them getting to a high round, right? So why would you not get in front of that dangerous narrative of it being too easy and be like, don't worry, we're making it look easy on purpose. We've tuned it down for this experience, but we're going to ramp it back up for launch. Like, wouldn't you get in front of that narrative. That actually goes for the zombies being too weak as well. Exact same point. Similarly, with the pandering to MP players thing, wouldn't you have had the reflection that I had a little while ago where I was saying it's not a good idea to show the MP version of this play space first and then show the zombies version while trying to tell people that it's unique, right? Because it just makes you look like a liar. Why would you not make a different decision, just show different maps and then show the zombies thing and have people seeing Liberty Falls in zombies first rather than seeing it in MP first, right? Another marketing decision that could have maybe avoided some of the problems here. And honestly, I would circle this whole section if I could, but going back up to the stuff that we've got here, I also think it would be important to make it very clear that sure, it's smaller, that's good. They said that, that's good. Sure, it's more compact, good, but surely it would be important to specify it's not on the same level that
Glad you're
Terminus
enjoying,
is on.
Michael, dude.
It's not just another launch map, okay? This isn't Voyage of Despair to 9. This isn't Blood of the Dead to Voyage. This is not one of those scenarios. This is Shadows of Evil and the Giant, where, crucially, the term bonus map is used to describe
I hate that
the
term.
Giant.
I said this
when
at
you
the very
say bonus
beginning.
map, like I talked about in that other video that I mentioned to you guys, breaking down all the bonus maps in Zombies history, when you say bonus map, your expectations shift completely. And all these sorts of assumptions,
They shouldn't,
right,
though. That's what I'm
actually get
saying.
a lot less prominent because with a bonus map, you're not expecting a
I get it. I
fully-fledged
get it,
Easter egg,
but-
right? Like brand new map, fully fledged Easter egg. You're not expecting that. You're expecting
But exactly,
the
we
Giant.
are
You're
getting that.
expecting
So the reason why people are calling it a bonus map is because there's no Easter egg on it yet, which they said is not there. So that marketing wise, he is doing what they are saying, right? Like he is, the marketing team did what he is saying. Hey, the Easter egg is not in here, yet he's still calling it a bonus map, even though he knows that. So maybe his marketing strategy is wrong in the first place.
a smaller experience, a more compact experience with less stuff to do, maybe less grand story implications, maybe no cutscene. Like you're starting to think those sorts of things with bonus maps. And so if what has happened here is that these assumptions are in place because they're calling it a fully fledged map when actually they could all be resolved by them just calling it a bonus map, then why haven't we done that? Is it because the marketing is being deceptive? Or is it because there's a misunderstanding of what terminology zombies players use to talk about the maps that we've been playing for 15 years? Like, is there a misunderstanding about that on the Treyarch side? Is there a legal reason why they can't use bonus map terminology or something similar? Or is it just that they want to be deceptive? Like, I feel like
He's not putting in the third one. The third thing is that they did say that they turned off the Easter egg. There's nothing deceptive about that. And I'm not saying that there was nothing deceptive at all. I'm just saying that he's missing that part.
Sort of generous, right? My opinion is that they haven't been intentionally deceptive here at all, okay? My opinion is that has not been the intent. Because I think
hold
that
up.
they
Hold up, I
have
might have
tried to
spoken
make
too
it a
soon.
fully fledged map. I think that it probably does have a fully fledged main quest. Like, I
spoke
think
too soon.
these statements that they've said are all true. So I actually don't think that the deception part of things has happened. But what I think they've failed to do is recognize that these things have consequences for people's expectations, people's understanding, and they haven't appropriately curtailed some of those expectations, which has led to all of this craziness. I think that this is an avoidable problem. And I think that this also, all of this stuff, I don't think that this means that Black Ops 6 Zombies is inherently a cash grab. I don't think that it's a pre-order cancellation moment. I don't think that it means that Terminus sucks. I don't think that it means that Liberty Falls sucks even necessarily. I just think that we went into this with such a clearly established picture based on all the stuff that Treyarch had told us from the last month, and that what we ended up seeing was very different to what that picture was in our brain. Bearing in mind also, this is the first time, beyond some canned B-roll, some very select B-roll of a different map, Terminus, this is the first time that people have been able to play the map live. So do you want your reveal of Black Ops 6 Zombies live gameplay to be a scenario where people are rinsing a mode, you're making it look more empty on purpose because you're turning those Easter eggs off, you're only showing them the auraless part of the map because it's upstairs and it's daylight, and you're ripping out all of the cool new systems like augments, for instance, and then you're showing that to the world with the backdrop of all of these bold statements that you've made over the last month. Like, that feels to me like a misstep in marketing, but not a...
Say, for example, they did Call of Duty Next. Same way that they did it, but for multiplayer, they only had one map. You couldn't use kill streaks. And you had 4 weapons that you could use, and we'll just leave it at that. People will be like, this multiplayer sucks, because they're not actually showing you what it actually is. He's making a really good point
misstep
there.
in design, because ultimately the game
I did not see augments
a
at
lot of
all.
the stuff that we're asking for here. They might be there. It's just that we've weirdly not been shown them, but we've been told that we would be seeing them, and it hasn't been clearly established why we're not seeing certain things and why we are, and etc. Like, even just the amount of gameplay that we saw from COD Next, I think it was too much, because when you rip out all of these core features that you need for the game to be fun,
saying the
and then you
opposite
don't
of
just
me.
show 30 minutes of zombies, you're essentially getting past the initial discovery of those first 10, 15, 20 minutes, and then you're just getting into repetition of actions that we've seen for years since Cold War Zombies that don't look any different, and they're happening in a play space that inherently is dull. Like, I think that the Zombies community reaction to Liberty Falls would actually be infinitely more positive right now if all of the gameplay was capped at 25 minutes, which is crazy to say, but I'm saying that because
It would have been better if you were allowed to do the Easter egg for the first 2 steps or something like that.
Weirdly, if I'm being as generous as possible, I don't think what Treyarch showed us was actually representative of the final product. I mean, to be clear, if it is representative, right, if all these problems remain in the main game, the whiteboard's coming back out, bro. Like, then I'm gonna really be very heavily critical of how they've gone about this. But I am trying to offer benefit of the doubt.
I
a little bit
agree
here. I'm
with-
trying to offer the other side of the coin. I'm trying to be fair. And I think the world where it was 25 minutes capped, the rest was left up to our imaginations. We weren't sure what the sort of greater systems might be or the depth might be. And then we got to launch and we got to see all of those systems, right, in their full glory. That would have been much smarter, but it's not what we got. And I think it comes down to Activision not understanding what the Zombies community wants. Quite simply. I think that's what it comes down to. So my final verdict here is that there is a world where all of these criticisms are not answered by Treyarch. All of these blue circles and green circles I've done, all those things could not happen. And in actual fact, the map itself might not have an underground. It might not have any
that is
aura
true
increase
as well.
due to the Easter egg. It might permanently just look like Golova. It might not have any really exciting quests for pack-a-punching or upgrading weapons. Like, it might feel like the core Zombies DNA has been stripped from it. That is possible. But in fairness, I think there is also a world where Treyarch has just made it look that way through poor marketing, and that in actual fact,
By the way, this could also be goddamn brilliant marketing if this map comes out and it has a massive twist like that. We probably passing that over. Because yes, people are crapping all over it now. It's getting all this press. This video has like 1 million views. If it flips and there is something crazy on this map, if there's like another half to this map, which there may not be, but if there is, could be wild.
map slaps. Like,
Good.
I really
Good.
think there is a world where we will look back on this video in 3 months' time and we'll go, yeah, they marketed it terribly, but Liberty Falls is really fun. It's a great camo grind map. Maybe it's smaller, sure, but the story is actually really exciting and the underground area is phenomenal, and like, those things might happen. It's just too early to say. And in terms of like,
Agreed.
is the Zombies community being unnecessarily negative? I don't think so. I think the Zombies community is just reacting to what we've been shown, and it's on Treyarch now to make sure that the record is corrected and set straight as to whether we've got the
To be clear though, I don't think Treyarch was expecting this reaction. Just to be clear, unless they like the team like knew without the Easter egg that the thing didn't look good. I don't know.
Or the solution scenario. I pray, for obvious reason, that it's the latter, but obviously all of us right now are worried that it's the former. And being worried about those sorts of things when 4 years of development has gone into the game
Can we just acknowledge the fact he still hasn't filled out number
is
6?
valid, and I want this to be a point I make emphatically. It's valid because in the backdrop of all of this, if we take out Black Ops 6 Zombies hype, if we take out all the things that Treyarch have done right in the last month, all of the incredible marketing that they have done, the intro cutscene for Liberty Balls, we take all of those things away, okay? We have to remember the fact that in the background of all of this is Activision, and Activision has messed the Zombies community around for the last, 3 years straight. It's just happened. And I've got countless other whiteboard videos about this and countless other videos just in general. Activision is not a company that I feel comfortable trusting when it comes to the promises they make about the zombies mode. And
He's
so,
been very
of
clear about that, and
course,
that's
the
probably
zombies
why
community has
he
been in a
doesn't get
habit
invited.
in several recent years, recent games of being
And I get it.
very cautious about new things, and then in hindsight, it's actually not so bad. This is true, but it is also true that we have been given reason to feel that way because we've been messed around by what I feel has been misleading marketing or deceptive marketing.
His misleading, he did one of these videos for Modern Warfare Zombies and talked about deceptive marketing, and I agreed with a lot of what he said.
Or just marketing that hasn't spoken to us as a community, and then the products that we've received have also not been designed for us anymore, despite the fact that we're the only reason that this mode is here in the first place. You know, we are the zombies community, but the zombies mode is being designed for Warzone players now. And that stings.
I don't
right?
agree with
so
that.
Of course, we're going to look to change that might be informed by stuff in Warzone. And we're going
It looks like it's designed for Warzone players. It is not designed for Warzone players. Warzone players want to kill 1 million people, and it's not the same. Whoops.
a huge argument
What did I
has
do?
ignited
What did I do?
inside the Black Ops 6
Guys, I screwed up.
a huge argument has ignited
We gotta go back.
by stuff in Warzone, and we're gonna say, maybe I
we
don't
go.
want to just accept this straight away. Maybe I want to be brought around and convinced, right? I think that that is a valid stance to have, and that's not the same as just saying, I encourage everyone to blindly hate, but I am saying that I think that we should work together to listen to each other here and try and unpack where the frustration comes from behind these complaints. Right? Why do we feel like it's such a big problem that it looks like Outbreak on the surface? Underneath
Am
that,
I the
there is
only one that is bothered that he hasn't filled out number 6 yet?
implicit problem that the whole map might end up looking like an Outbreak map. It might look like that because it's designed for multiplayer players and Warzone players. That might be a decision that is meant to make them happy and not us. That might mean that the 4 years of development going into zombies hasn't gone into 4 years of zombies community facing content. Actually, it's been half of what we should have had because they're trying to make the Warzone people happy, right? Like, those fears are there, and it is not our fault that they are there, because they are rooted in the reality of the situation. And so I want everyone to just try over the next few months as we give Black Ops 6 a chance, right? Like, we give them a chance to prove our doubts wrong here. Like, we really should be going forth here somewhat optimistic, just based on the fact that a lot of other stuff that we've seen does look really good. So, like, it would be a very weird outlier for this to just be an extreme negative amongst a sea of other good things. Like, we should have an ability to see the good in things, but also sometimes you got to call out the bad when you see the bad, or at least when you worry that you're seeing the bad. That's me done.
It's a good question as to what Flower Flame said. Why, when the 12 people went and played zombies, why did they show them Terminus? Because maybe they were considering them to be like the more serious zombies community, and they thought when Call of Duty Next happened, it wouldn't be quite like this serious zombies community. It would be the Warzone and multiplayer community. And that map looked more multiplayer and Warzone-ish. So they were trying to bring in that crowd. I think that's probably why, as to what they were thinking. But I think that backfired is essentially it. But as per usual, Milo just goes in, and there was a bunch of things I did agree with and didn't. And I think, as we saw with chat, you guys were kind of in a similar boat. So we made it. Hour-long video done.